Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, pick Gadiana.
Jared Brandon with Brandon Wound Pickups.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to have you along on the back, actually on the handlebars of this bicycle. This little BMX bicycle that we call.
A bicycle built for four.
Yes, exactly. That would be an all-time hilarious thing to go bar hopping on a what do you call that? Like a
quad.
On a three-person bicycle. What is that called?
A tricycle.
A tri-tandem?
Yeah, I've seen them. I don't know how we'd get you guys on that thing, but
aren't they in England though? And
well, but you could take two bicycle built for twos and put them side by side.
You could
and weld them together that way,
or a side hack,
a quad cycle,
quadricycle.
Yeah, quadra.
Anyways,
I'm going to invent that.
Do that. Okay, John, we'll pick you up and ride you on handlebars. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Guys, we're going to have an awesome time tonight. We have a special guest. I've already sort of slipped that to you already. Who are you, special guest?
I'm John Maghini from Maghini Guitars.
Hey!
All right. We are happy to have you along for our show tonight. Where can people find your wares?
They can find them at MaghiniGuitars.com or Instagram at Maghini Guitars.
And that is MAGHINI.
That is correct.
Is that Italian?
It is.
Oh,
it is.
John Maghini.
That's me.
All right. Jared's favorite thing. Whatever he can say Italian, he loves to do that.
To be perfectly honest, any foreign accent always comes out sounding Italian when Jared does it.
That's right.
That is true. All right. Well, let's get to this, everybody. Oh, wait, Tony.
Yes.
What do people do? What do we do on the show?
What do people do?
What do people do when they listen to us on the show?
Well, right now they're tuning out.
So. I hope not. They're going to miss a great show.
Well, Todd, I'm glad you asked that because we like to talk about gear.
Oh, yes.
Not just any gear. We like to talk about boutique gear, and that'd be things like guitars and amps and pedals and pedal boards, accessories, all the righteous stuff.
That's right. And we also like to do the 101 shows as well.
Uh-huh. What happens there?
Well, we talk about really cool things like speakers and pickups and, I don't know, wiring harnesses, necks on guitars.
All kinds of stuff.
And we do our best to tell everybody what we know about it. We may not be right all the time, but
if we don't know, we usually have an expert come on board and help us out.
That's correct. Yeah. And speaking of expert, we're going to be doing one on pickups here pretty soon, guys.
So who are we having on?
Well, I'm still looking for an expert.
Oh, yeah.
In the meantime, until we find one, we're going to have Jared. And
I'll do it.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it for standing in on this. Please send us your questions. Anything you want to ask about pickups, we're going to tackle it. Okay.
Yep.
And we're not going to just, we've already done really early on. Actually, that was some of the first stuff way back before Jared was officially part of the show.
But
after that, I'm like, man, I want you to be here all the time.
I was like, yeah.
So we're going to answer all kinds of questions, and it's going to be a blast. So please make sure that you send your questions in. Todd at theguitarknobs.com will work. You can send it there. You can also DM on Instagram at guitarknobs, and we'll get to answering things. In the meantime, gentlemen, we've got a show to do with Mr. John Maghini of Maghini Guitars, and I'm really excited about this. So,
don't we have some people to thank?
Well, what?
Don't we have some people to thank?
Yes, we do. We usually do that at the end, but let's thank these people right now. That's right. Rode Mics for providing this awesome equipment that we have in front of our faces right now. The Rodecaster Pro and the Procaster mics, doing it every week. It's good stuff. And they've got a lot of new innovations that they've been working on. It seems like they've got a new release of a new product all the time. So make sure that you're checking that out, because especially now, a lot of people who are listening are either recording themselves for their own music or a band, or demoing, or doing whatever, even in their professional life or whatever. So they probably got something for you. Check them out over at Rode Mics. I wanted to just do a little shout out to our friend Ron Lister, who sent us a great Would You Rather, which we're going to hear in an upcoming episode. But in the meantime, I'm going to just read off his 4 on the floor real quick.
Cool.
He's calling from Lac La Jaune, British Columbia, Canada. I'm probably sure I messed that up. But he is number 1 is an Electro Harmonix Big Muff Ram's Head reissue. I mean, hard to make those sound bad.
That's true.
I probably could, but
yeah, you could.
the number 2 is the Ernie Ball Expression Series Tremolo. So I guess that would be Expression Series is probably, I'm guessing that's a pedal format. I mean, like a rocker pedal format. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, look it up. And then number 3 is the Walrus Audio ARP 87 delay. And every time I see that, I always say ARP. I'm sure everybody does, but that's a really great delay. No, I've heard that one in person, played through that in person. It's mighty fine. Also, the Walrus Audio ACS1 amp and cab simulator.
Cuckoo, ka-choo.
Oh,
Very interesting. So that's an interesting board right there. So thanks for sending that in, Mr. Ron Lister.
cool.
And we encourage everyone else to share those with us and to share the Would You Rathers, which we got a real good one coming up later. All right, everybody, let's get on with what's going on in our music worlds. This week, we're going to swing by Tony's house, and then we're going to go visit John Maghini.
Oh,
Cool. Well, this week, thankfully, and I appreciate everything. I have written up more orders the first 4 days of March than I have ever done since I've been in business.
Wow.
It's just coming in gangbusters, and I love it. I mean, the only downside is we're running a little bit behind at the shop, but we're getting stuff out as soon as possible. So anybody out there that's listening and you have something on order, there's a few of you I know, please be patient, and I will get it out as quickly as possible and as good as possible. But yeah, that was just something that just struck me today as I was at the post office picking up another 6 or 7 packages, and I'm just so thankful for it. I mean, because I have a lot of friends who are doing half of what they used to do, and that's it's a blessing. So thank you very much, everyone out there.
Right on. Thanks, Tony. That was inspiring, enlightening, and not a total waste of our time. John,
You hurting my feelings.
No, I said it wasn't.
Yeah, I know when you're being smartish.
All right, John, what's going on in your music world? Besides guitar building, surely you must have something going on that you can share with us.
Oh yeah, man. We adopted a 9-week-old puppy.
Oh boy!
Wow.
Yeah, it'll keep you busy.
Oh yeah, and up all night. So it's
Oh my goodness!
It's been fun, for about a week. I think it's been a little over a week now. So
What kind of puppy?
Oh, it's a Yorkshire Terrier. So
Oh.
it's all of 1.6 pounds of dog.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
That's
So
a
it's-
Toto dog, isn't it? That's Toto.
yeah. I think so. So it's new.
That's fun.
That is
Oh,
certainly
yeah.
new. Is it
Yeah.
going to be a shop dog or?
She's got to stay out from underneath all the machinery.
Yeah,
which,
probably.
Yeah, she's not really used to yet, but we'll see if we can get there at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure when those dust vacuums kick in, she'll love it.
Oh yeah, she could. Yeah. We could lose her in that easily.
Probably.
So, yeah,
Or
yeah,
you'll find out that your bench duster is actually barking at you.
yeah. That's true. That's very true.
Got to lift the hood and make sure that the dog's not crawled up into a compartment before you turn the blade on.
I know. So,
Jeez, that went dark.
Wow. Thanks, morbid Jared.
Well, you see the warnings about the cats up into the car engines and the window. What are you going to do?
that's true.
Oh dear.
That's true.
Interesting. Jared, about yourself?
So I talked about the Gibson SG Custom project, and that's kind of taken a different turn. I went up to good old Lay's up there, and I've talked about it a billion times. But I went up there to check out how my Martin is doing. I've got a 1969 Martin, and interesting enough, I'm sure some of you know this, and especially Tony, but when they finished those guitars, the necks weren't attached to the body. Mm-hmm. So that's how Dan's going to do that, and they've got it about ready to be sprayed. So it's really, really exciting. I got to see the wood grain and all that kind of good stuff that I couldn't really tell before. So it was really cool to see that in progress, and I brought him up the UPS brown SG Custom, and it had a boo boo on the neck. It was a neck repair. It was a little boo boo, and my thoughts were to have that thing totally redone, refinish it, and like a purple sparkle, and yada yada. And I was just elated with dreams of grandeur and really wanted all that done. And Dan's daughter works for her now, and she was in the room during the conversation. I was like, I wanted gold sparkle. She's like, gold sparkle, yeah, and Dan's like, I would just touch it up. I'm like, really? He's like, touch it up and leave it original. It'll be worth more money that way if you ever want to turn around and sell it. And I really had to think about that because, to be honest, the necks on those are very small, very tiny. The nut width is like nothing. So it's kind of like a late 70s Fender Strat or Tele. There's just barely any nut length there. And it feels like a pencil. So I don't know. I think Dan's advice was the right way to go. So I said, yeah, just touch it up and make it look as good as it can, and I'll just put original parts, find some old age gold parts and put it all together. And if I don't like it, I can sell it and at least make a slight profit on it, Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Well, I think that's smart advice. I mean, unless you are convinced and you like the way that it plays, although you haven't even this was the husk that you bought.
Yeah, it was the husk. Yeah.
So you don't know how it feels or anything like that at this point.
I mean, it's kind of a mystery. And like I said, I know I'll make a nice profit on it if I go to sell it, and it'll be a working ready guitar too to somebody, which is attractive. And the parts really are not expensive to buy for that. Yeah. They're really easy to get. The gold harmonica bridge, that probably cost me the most at like $120.
Yeah.
And it was original gold one too. And a brand new one costs around the same retail from WD. So, yeah. So, that's how that's going. And
you're not going to route it out for a Floyd or anything?
I thought about it, but nah. And that's it, man. I mean, other than that, business isn't near as good as Tony's, but no.
Yeah, well,
I'm just kidding. No. I mean, I'm really in a good spot too. So it's really nice to have work right now, and I feel the same way Tony does. I'm very blessed to have things to do when I wake up the next day. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Cool.
That's a great story, Jared. I can't wait
sticking
to hear
to it.
more. Yeah, it's fantastic. So for me this week, I've been spending.
Hey, Todd, how about you?
Time. I did a 1 minute wonder featuring my Sheraton 2. For my Epiphone Sheraton 2. And anybody not familiar with those, it's basically, it's kind of like it's like a 335 style body, but I believe it's just a little bit bigger.
It's bigger. Yeah, it's a little bigger.
A little bit bigger. And it's more substantial, but the finishing on it, it is the Cadillac treatment, it's the amount of detail that they put into it, and for the price, it's kind of stupid. I mean, it's a pretty fantastic guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I do suggest replacing the pickups and the electronics. I have Jared's PAFs in there, and it just sounds incredible. And we did the wiring. Jared, that's the what do you call that kind of the wiring?
That's just harness. Called a wiring harness for the guitar. Yeah. That's exactly what it's called.
No.
The potentiometers.
No, where it plugged in the middle. The wires from the pickup came in, and then the wires from the pickups were separate from the wires from the harness, and they plugged together.
Oh yeah, they're quick connects.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. I honestly forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's the quick connects, but let's just answer this real quick. What's a downside of a quick connect when you're talking about wiring harnesses and stuff?
Well, there's just more metal and more ways for things to corrode and fail. It's like, how you have different adapters for different chords for different reasons. It's like using 10 adapters, instead of just using one adapter. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's you're kind of going out of your way for convenience, for production. And things are better off when they're just sealed together and soldered together rather than a quick connect.
Go ahead, Tony.
I don't think it makes much, if any, difference. It is a lot more convenient if you do want to switch things out. Tonally, I don't really see much of it. As long as the connection is good and clean and metal to metal, where you run into problems is if things start to corrode or oxidize or get, beer or whatever poured onto them. Yeah. That's when you start having problems. But I mean, my personal preference is I'm with Jared. I like to wire things like Gibson used to.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
But there's, I don't think there's anything wrong with the quick connects, but Yeah.
I do recall the wires being, and again, I'm not an electronic expert, but the wires were remarkably thin, as I recall. And I think we put more substantial stuff in there. Again, I don't know how much that matters. Maybe it doesn't at all. I don't know. But I know that I feel like it sounds a whole lot better now, largely due to the pickups. But anyways, point being, for this particular 1 minute wonder, I decided, hey, I want to pull out the Sheraton 2 and play that. I had some newer strings on it, and it's such a great playing guitar, and I haven't played it in a while, so I was like, dang, I'm gonna keep this down here in the basement and play this all week. So I've been having a good time jamming out with that.
That's good.
Yeah, and it's the burst, color. They make it in burst, black, and natural, but the burst is like totally the way to go on those. So.
And that one has a bound guard on it.
It has everything you can think of. Short of a kickstand, it's on this guitar.
I could put a big kickstand on it for you.
That would be hilarious. That would actually be really, really funny to put a kickstand on a guitar.
Well, Gil did it in the 60s.
Yeah, they did, right?
It wasn't successful.
Yeah.
If they all had kickstands, we wouldn't have to take stands to the shows.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, let's see what's going on with Jared. You want to do it? Come on now. How about an Italian one?
How about it? Some of this.
What the hell?
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
Hey, Tony.
Oh, yes, Todd.
You know what's a real big pain in the pedal?
putting batteries in it.
Well, yes, but aside from that, when you got a top-mounted jack pedal, you're trying to plug in those pancake cables, and they're not fitting. You know what I found that works fantastic for that?
I have no idea.
Tour Gear designs patch cables.
I've heard of these patch cables.
Because the actual, like the diameter is smaller than a dime. I believe it's like just smaller than a dime. So think about that.
Dimes.
Instead of a quarter, you got a dime.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd say it's smaller than a dime.
It's just barely. And it feels like you only paid a handful of dimes for it. They start out at under $6 for a cable.
Holy moly.
Compare that. Just do some comparative shopping, everybody. These things are fantastic. They are super, super thin cables. They're flat cables. We all have them. This is one of the best guitar products that we've encountered. Mm-hmm. You can go to tourgeardesigns.com/discount/guitar knobs, and you're going to save 10% on your entire order. I say
Holy
entire.
moly.
Yes.
You're telling me that I can get into these cables for a hair over $5 with this discount code?
That's correct. And when you realize that, you're going to get a couple more, and then you're going to save even more money. It's a great deal. tourgeardesigns.com/discount/guitar knobs. You're going to be happy. Thank you to Tour Gear for making an awesome product.
And thank you for sponsoring the 4 on the Floor.
Exactly. John Maghini, we need to hear your 4 on the floor, buddy.
My 4 on the floor.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
Good. I am too.
All right.
Let's get them one at a time and tell us all the delicious details about each and every one of these.
All right. We'll start with my favorite of them all. It is the DoD analog delay, the FX90, the 80s model.
Oh, my goodness.
That one.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It's the one that has the power supply with the 1/4-inch input jack.
Of course.
Yeah. It fits nowhere on your board. It's the one that's
Right.
Yeah. But for some reason, I still have that thing sitting there. It's just never been replaced. I don't know why I love it. It does what it's supposed to do. I'm sure there's a million other better boutique delays, but that thing just does it for me.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I used to have one of those. I think it was actually the first pedal I ever bought. And back then I was just doing sort of like pull them out of the bag and chain them up on the floor. I didn't have a fancy pedal board or actually many pedals, but I really liked it. And then I was a dum-dum and sold it because I was like, I need a better pedal. And I should have kept it. But when you're at the beginning stages of gear acquisition syndrome, you have to turn things over. You have to sell things off to get better things. It's just a fact of life.
That's how it goes. How it goes.
Yes.
And I have turned lots and lots of stuff over that I wish I hadn't. That I wish I didn't get rid of. Number 2, classic Mxr Phase 90. I've always had one in some form or another. So I don't have like a cool vintage script one right now or anything. I have had one in the past. I just have a new, orange brick, but it does what it's supposed to do.
Does the thing.
It does the thing.
So you prefer the 90 over the 100?
I'm so simple that the one knob it's like, well, how could I go wrong with this?
That's true.
I can't mess this up. I'm not that tech savvy with stuff. When it comes to like playing, I plug into things that work. They do what they're supposed to do. I bypass the stuff a lot of times. I just play through the amp. But when I'm not, this is what's there. I guess like moving on to number 3 would be some form of a wah pedal, which again doesn't get used all that much, but I still feel like I have to have it there. So
what's your favorite wah?
My favorite wah, and I had one, and people are probably going to laugh, but it was a Morley, and it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Again, it was like probably early 90s. And the reason I got rid of it is because it squeaked so loud. I tried greasing it and everything. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like doing my best Jerry Cantrell. And it's like everywhere I went with it, people were like, yeah, that dude's pedal is like, that's loud. So I scrapped it in favor of a Crybaby, but I'm going to scour reverb. I'm going to go on reverb tonight.
Oh, there's loads of them, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to find one. I just had no idea. So I'm like, wow, this is terrible. Like, bring it to the guitar shop and trade it for something else. And
yeah, I have heard from other people. I haven't personally done this, but when they have decided, oh my gosh, you look down and you see that giant gear and it's got like hair and crumbs and all kinds of stuff and then they're like, oh, this is disgusting. I need to clean it. Well, the problem when you clean it, if you don't re-grease it,
Yep.
then it's even worse.
It's even worse.
Yeah, and nobody has a tube of white lithium grease sitting in their house drawer.
Yeah, it's just not. Jared does.
Jared does.
Oh,
that's another story.
Yeah, different story.
So, what do you got for number 4?
Number 4, I have a classic 808. That's the Analog Man. Mike did the classic mod on that, and because he's local, I have actually been down to his place and got to hang out before and see all the cool stuff. And again, like fumble around with pedals that I have no idea what they do, but he does. And I bought that from him. And I think it's been like 20 years that I've had that.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's probably an early number then. Hey,
it probably is. Yeah.
That's where you can mortgage your house with that. Jeez.
Oh man, I should look into that. I've never thought of that.
Yeah. That sounds good, man. That's a nice little lineup. That'll get you some rockin' tunes for sure.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. What amp are you favoring these days?
Oh, a little silver face champ at the house. It's nothing major. And then I've got I've built something a little bigger, the workshop. They'll run like a little orange and an old custom cab that I have kicking around.
Is that what you test on?
Oh yeah. A lot of times. Well, I use the champ quite a bit because it's it's not overpowering. I could really hear stuff, but when I really want to drive everyone crazy, run it through the big amp.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds good, man. Well, speaking of your guitars, that's why we decided to have you on the show. I mean, shocker. Aside from being a nice guy that we want to talk to, we want to find out your backstory on these guitars that you're making.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And make sure, hey, everybody, if you haven't already done so, just hop over to Instagram and check out Maghini Guitars, MAGHINI_guitars.
Cool.
So you have a couple of, at least 2, sort of like key models, right?
Yep.
Why don't you tell us about those?
Sure. So they're both a very retro styling that I've been kind of working on for a number of years. The Satellite and the Zenith. They're both relatively straightforward. You can tell that my background, some of the instruments I really enjoyed were like Telecasters and Fender instruments. So that's sort of where I come from, my background. So they are 25.5-inch scale, bolt-on construction, but that's kind of where it ends. And then everything else sort of falls into different pickup combinations and just being able to be a little bit more creative with the platform than just doing say like a Tele or a Strat.
Or a Strat-a-Tele. Ha!
Yeah.
Ooh. I have one of those.
I have some of those too.
So yeah, what would you say if you could? What was your inspirations? I know you said Strat and Tele, but you're clearly bending beyond that. Like, what are some of the other things that have influenced you as far as your stylings go?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, well, for one, it's like the Fender offsets, the Jags and the Jazz Masters and stuff were a big, before they were like the in thing that they are now. They were always really, really appealing to me, as were like the Japanese guitars from the 60s, the original Ibanez stuff. And they were just basically copying the offsets and the American Fenders. But, the more modern stuff, I think some of the builders that I definitely look at as, inspiration to me, stuff like, Saul Cole and stuff that Dennis Fano's done and Novo Guitars, things like that. really kind of pushing the envelope of traditional, like a vintage appeal in a modern instrument. So.
It looks like you have an affinity for the German carve.
That too, yeah. I was able to bring that into the mix. Like
that's cool.
Thanks, man. When I first started, I was doing like set neck carved top guitars like 20 something years ago for a short time, and that was definitely a fun thing. But it was kind of a saturated market for that at the time, because there was PRS and a handful of other guys that were like coming up behind that. So I quickly moved away and did a bunch of other things. And then when I finally got back to it, was like, I want to put something together that's pretty unique. I don't want to just do something that's, cookie cutter that everyone else is doing in terms of styling. So I just started to sketch stuff out and came up with these two as like sort of the two basic models that I wanted to launch with and stick to that. So.
Yeah, well, I think the nice thing is, while both of these models kind of look familiar, they are very unique, and especially I think you do, make some changes with the pickguard shapes and obviously the pickups and things like that. So I think it's a really cool. There's the tricky, the sweet spot to find something that's familiar and comfortable to people. That's not that much of a departure, that they want to, they're like, no, I would never play that.
Exactly.
So I think both of these models that you talked about are in the ballpark where people say, yeah, I think I'd like to play that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. That's kind of the feedback I was hoping to get. And it's been positive. They're definitely, like I said, there's a familiarity to them. The feel, neck shapes, things like that. I'm not getting, too far out. There's, it's really within spec of what a lot of other people are doing. So it's a comfortable feel, because you do get a lot of that. You get guys that are like, well, they're not going to go to a music store in the Midwest and get to play 2 or 3 of them. So what does it feel like? How does it compare to this or that? So I find to say to somebody, well, if you know this particular model or that of a certain Telly or certain year of Fender, you'll find this is pretty comfortable. So that's
yeah.
Curious to know, when you're choosing parts and stuff, like when you started out, what was sort of the process of honing in on the final parts that make it onto your guitar?
Well, it was, for me, I knew I wanted to start with like the Telecaster style bridge, because I really do like that. Now there's so many choices in saddles for 3 saddle bridges that are compensated. So you get really good intonation and also better quality materials. So that was one. I picked a bridge that I could work with, and kind of off of that started to look at, do I want to do a control plate? I want to offer it with both, with or without. I also wanted to go like with Kluson hardware for the keys and some of the other components, just because it's such an iconic brand, even though it's not made in Michigan anymore and all that. It carries that, to me, that vibe that all of the best golden age instruments had. And it's WD. Guys are really, they're stand-up dudes. They've been really good to me over the years.
Every time I hear Kluson, I can't not think of Clouseau. Pink Panther. And every time I think of Clouseau, I think of, what are you doing, you fool? That's a priceless Steinway. Not anymore. That's so great. Anyways, boy, everybody's like, what's a Pink Panther?
Yes.
Go look it up, everybody. I'd love to just kind of get into some of the choices that you made on your guitars, because I think a difficult thing for people to do, even those who aren't building, is to have that sort of editing restraint. When is too much, and when is this doesn't work, but you kind of want it anyway, and sometimes it feels like it's difficult to find that editing voice. When you do see somebody who's done that, you're like, it feels different. It's like, oh, that's just enough. That's just right. The right choices were made. Does that come natural to you, or is that something you've had to work on?
I mean, if you feel like I have some, like you look at mine from that perspective, that's awesome. Yeah. I look at it like, I don't want to date myself as an old guy who has like no sense of style or something, you know. It's like too far is too far. I try to be, I guess I look at it like to be as simple and effective as possible. But I can definitely get into that, like pile it on there and look at it the next morning and be like, oh, what was I thinking? Like that's just, that's not cool.
Well, I'll call out a couple things. I think personally, I actually really like clay dot inlays. And I've noticed that on a couple of years where, you know, you've got sort of a metallic finish, but and it's kind of, you know, everything's spacey and retro and stuff. But then you've got these really subdued, you know, clay dot inlays. I'm like, that's a nice editing choice right there.
Thank you.
Putting the pickup toggle between the knobs. I'm like, that's a great place for that because you're not going to. I've had to take off toggles. I've had to tape them down. I've had to switch them out for rockers because I end up hitting them all the time.
That's me. I'm like a flailing hand player. So
yes, exactly.
The toggle is not in the place it needs to be. It's a real drag. So, thank you. Yeah, no, that's another cue that I just sort of took from my own experience of like, where do I feel comfortable with this toggle being? And also, you know, stylistically, it fits. It does look right. Just where it is. And also sticking to it. It's like you can take input from people, like, and obviously you guys all know, it's like everybody's an expert at everything. So if they don't like it, they're going to let you know. And I learned a long time ago, I think it was one of the guys I worked with early on was like, yeah, he stopped me one day. He's like, you can't do what everybody wants you to do because that's all you're going to do forever. You'll just be that guy. So if you make the executive decision to put that toggle there, that's where that toggle goes. And that's kind of I guess in some ways I looked at that and was like, you know what, that's pretty good advice. I think I'll go with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also noticed on the ones that have a tele control plate, you flip it so that the volume is close to the pickup and the switch is not where it typically is.
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, I've done that with every telly that I
Thank you.
Because I'm the same way. I'll just flail right into the switch and knock it out of where it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Do you let people decide, like, you know, like instead of the toggle, what if somebody wants a three-way switch, like a lever switch, like a strat switch?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, are you open to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Definitely. I'm tooled up to do it. It's just I think a preference on my end. I might be pushing the switchcraft toggle a little more so than a three-way in that particular model. But I don't think there's any reason I couldn't do one for somebody if they wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pickups too. You're winding your own pickups?
I am. I'm definitely not on the level I like where you're at. And I'm looking at yours. I was like on Instagram last night checking out your shop and your equipment, which it blows my mind. But no, I'm hand winding these, and I'm pretty much sticking to like single coil stuff. I have some humbuckers that I'm working on now. Like I'm not trying to get into like the PAF arena of making a clone or anything at this point in my life, but basically stuff that I dig. Like I had a couple sets of like Alnico Pole P90 pickups from Lawler. Thought they were really cool. They sort of brought that mix of Jazzmaster and P90 together. And I said, dude, I could probably, I could take a shot at doing this. And I started getting into it. And the more I wound them, the more I found that I really did like what I was getting out of it. So I kind of have just been doing as much of that as I can.
Well, I myself think that's a really, really special added feature to a guitar builder when they can wind their own pickups. I mean, of course, I like to get all the business I can, whatever, I mean, that's that's natural. However, I do have a lot of respect for builders such as yourself that just wants to do as much as they can in house. I think that says a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So kudos for you for taking that on, because it's not easy to get started doing that stuff.
No, it's a hurdle that I kind of got over. It's a funny thing. It's like I could build instruments, and I'm really confident in my ability to build instruments and fretwork and finishing. Then it came to the pickups, and I was really skeptical of what people were going to think of my pickups. And you do a couple of shows and you bring them out and people play them, and it was well received. So I was like, well, I'm on the right path. And,
well, if you have any questions about that, or you can't get a hold of the person you've been talking to, or I don't know if any's been helping you along the way, but you're always welcome to throw me an email and I can help you out.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. And I will take you up on it. That's for sure. And then you'll probably regret offering.
No, not really. I enjoy talking about it.
I know we all, that's the best part of this is like, I was excited to get the invite to come do it, because this is right in my wheelhouse, man. I can nerd out on guitar stuff and the tech end of this for forever. And obviously it's been a number of years, so I'm getting pretty good at it. So
one of I believe the guitar that when I first ran into your brand, I saw this guitar and I was like, holy moly, goodness, look at this thing. And it is Zenith, specifically the 1504.
Yep.
It's this, is it Pelham blue? It looks like a turquoisey Pelham. This thing is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And it looks like it's almost like a candy.
Yeah. Because
there's a shot that you have on Instagram, and I mean, the reflection of the knobs into it, it looks like it's translucent.
Yeah. It's sitting in front of me. It's on the rack right now. And it started off, so for all intents and purposes, my background is I built a lot of electric basses, and I did that for a number of years. And it's just like more specific, the classic electric that's on my site it's a P bass for I had orders for Candy Apple Red, and I had these guys that were like, should it be sprayed over silver or gold base? So I laid out some samples, and this guitar was one of the samples, and I didn't want to spray a red. So I mixed this blue, just translucent blue and lacquer, and I shot it over it and went, oh, wow, that's really cool.
It's freaking fantastic, man. That's one of the best looking guitars I've ever seen. I mean, it's beautiful.
The pickguard choice was absolutely perfect. I don't know if it makes the blue better than what it is, but you really hit a home run on that.
Thank you.
Tony, what's that called?
I call it Tiger Eye Shell.
Yeah.
It's kind of an orange and black and maybe even a little bit of silver mixed in with it. I think it's cool material. I've used that. I have a zebra shell, which is kind of the black and silver and white version of that, which is kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's what I purchased it as. I don't know.
But even on this one, this is a great example of what we were talking about. You've got a candy sort of, what color do you have a name for this color?
I think I called this something like candy turquoise, or maybe I shouldn't even make a guess at that. It's listed for sale somewhere with an actual name.
You should call it Sultan something. I don't know why.
That's ocean blue metallic.
Ocean blue. Yeah.
Thank you. I knew
ocean blue metallic. So you've got this ocean blue metallic that literally looks like you could put your hand into the guitar. And then this insane tiger eye shell, which this orange, pearly, black, inky pickguard. And then you've got sort of classic off-white pickups and knobs.
Yeah.
Which if you went metal on those or something, it would just take everything over the top and it would be too much. And that's what I mean. It's like, man, I appreciate the choices that you made on some of these guitars.
Thank you. Yeah.
What kind of knobs are those, Todd?
Volume and tone. What up?
Cupcakes.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I was thinking food. I was thinking food myself.
Yeah.
Brownies for Jared. They're brownie knobs.
Or peanut butter cups, the little ones.
Yeah. I think I have some that look like peanut butter cups. I have some ones that are really cool too.
Yummy.
What's your of those two? What's your favorite model to build, or do you have one as kind of one of your favorites?
I enjoy doing both of them. I really do. Probably the Zenith sometimes because it's just a little, I think, less traditional. Like it just has that squared shoulder shape to it that when I'm building them for somebody, I'm like, yeah, there's something about them. They get it.
Yeah. It's a special looking guitar. It's unique. And I think that's one of the hard things to do is make something that's unique.
Yeah.
It's a good time in the industry, I think, for like unique right now. I think it's more accepted than it was like 20 years ago. I feel like it's a really good time and place to be doing this. And,
well, one of the things that makes that easier, we brought this up on the show, and I'd love to actually get your thoughts, which is why you're on the show. But I think before the influx of so many boutique builders, or at least the access that we have to, the access also gave way to more, and then more gave way to more access. So it was like, slowly the mountain has built. But before that was really the case, whatever guitars were in the shop is what at the local big box or whatever, that was the range of guitars. So somebody that came along, if you happen to find one, I used one at a guitar shop or something, you're not gonna slap down your money on something. You're like, what is this brand? Is it good? And are people gonna think I'm a dork if I'm on stage with this, crazy guitar that nobody knows who it's made by? Or, there's still sort of like weird crowd shaming of, or at least guitarists in crowd shaming of whatever you're playing. That influx of boutique builders and the accessibility has just made it like just so much more like, man, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really cool way to look at it. Because,
in fact, it's kind of cooler, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's that's definitely a positive for the industry itself as a whole. Because I hear all sides of things. It's like, oh, the guitar industry's dead, and I don't see that. I mean, I don't want to see that if it was true, but I don't see it that way at all. I think maybe the iconic Guitar Hero thing of like, the 70s and stuff, and maybe even the 80s. And for me, the early 90s is definitely changed, but I think that the interest is still there. I'm staying busy, so obviously somebody's interested somewhere.
The other aspect of that is before you got a guitar, and that guitar may be just like, 10,000 other people have.
Right.
And as soon as people said, wait a minute, I can have something that's unique, and I got it from the person who actually made it and probably actually helped to make a few design choices on it. That's why we love this stuff. And that's where art meets function. It's one of the rare things in life that you really do get to do that, especially for something that you are going to cherish and is going to be special to you.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of that. And I think that's, for me, I'm really fortunate that for some days I feel really fortunate that I've put a lot of time into it. So I'm at a point now where I feel, like I said, like I'm confident in, what I'm capable of doing, and seeing the reaction people have to the, to that process and the finished product is super rewarding, because as knows, it's like not financial, like, rewards in the end of this, that's for sure. But, not going to get rich doing it. But the upside is just how much enjoyment I get from it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Are you doing all your own painting?
I do. Yeah. That's a whole nother special headache that I've decided to take on. But, I have for years, and I've gone back and forth with, do I want to continue to just kind of push forward with sticking with traditional, because everything is nitro, and it takes time. Mm-hmm. So there's that whole factor of getting that worked into the schedule, but I'm stubborn. I'm pretty used to using it. So I'm fairly, I feel like after 20 something years, fairly decent at it. Mm-hmm. But some days it'd be nice
All anybody has to do is look at that silver bass that you have up there, and I mean that should that should verify that.
That should. There was a comparison done on that bass when the customer got it with a friend of his has another brand, and he was like, "Yeah, my finish feels slightly thinner than the Maghini," and I was like, "Yeah, well, that's Inca silver, and I don't want to tell you how." How hard it was to get that finish.
I mean, it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Now you're in the Northeast, right? Are they Connecticut?
Connecticut.
Yep.
Yeah.
How much does it's kind of a setup question because we've got a couple friend builders who are, here in Ohio, Chase Gullett being one of them, who has really struggled with the weather is such a huge factor in painting and which affects your actual production schedule and everything. Do you run into those same problems?
I do. I love this time of year because it's cold and dry. So as long as the booth is warm, everything flows really well. Summertime is absolutely terrible. As soon as the humidity hits, and it's just soaking wet. But I've developed like enough tricks that I know when it's going to be really humid, I try not to go in the booth and spray dark colors if I can help it. Put plenty of retarder in the lacquer to slow down the cure, so it'll gas off slower, and hopefully if it gets
get some of that for Jared.
A little bit of blushing in it.
Oh yeah,
it'll disappear by tomorrow morning. So
have you heard about those? The auto spray booths that you can actually they're actually blow up. So you could get one of those pumps, the air pump that just stay on all the time.
Yeah.
I imagine have you thought about doing something like that?
I would probably look into something like that if I had enough like paint work to justify it. So I have what I have is I have like what they would call like it's an open front spray booth. I don't know if that's really that's probably not the right term for it, but it's out of now. It is now. We shoved this thing into a small room like 20 years ago, and it vents out, and it's properly vented, and it's an explosion-proof fan and filtration and everything. So it's pretty old school, but it gets the job done. And I think I just taught myself to do with as little as possible when it came to the finishing, especially the equipment. Not my guns and everything. That's another story. But the actual booth, that would probably be awesome. Although I probably don't have any room to put it. That's the other thing too. It's like kind of fight for space. Just always, I feel like every time I've moved to a little larger place, it's like, without the machinery and everything in there, it looks amazing. And I get everything in. It's like, oh man, it's kind of just a little bigger than the one before, and I can fill it right back up. But, that's definitely something to look at. Would be a more, I guess, climate controlled paint area. But yeah.
John, how did you get started in all this? Like, because you're pretty far along and you got a sophisticated setup. I've seen some pictures. We've been talking. I think we've got a good idea that you're not just hacking these things away.
No, I've accumulated a lot of stuff. Kind of by chance, I suppose. Like I was just like a gear nerd, I was like one of those kids that was like, I got a guitar, and other kids are like learning songs, and I'm like taking my guitar apart. It's just what like I'll figure out how to put it back together. Couple of trips to the music store, and my mother's like yelling at me for taking whatever it was, like the springs out of the trem, and I didn't know where they went back. I didn't know you had to put them all back in. Just stuff like that, where it was like learning from my own mistakes, and eventually I just got this confidence. It's like, people build guitars. I could build a guitar, and set out to figure out how to do that. Yeah, I mean, at one point I was like really fortunate to get a job in a really busy shop in Connecticut. That was, a really cool experience to work, side by side with someone who'd been doing it for 30 something years at the time, and in a repair environment. So that was a big help along the way. But mostly just from making a lot of mistakes. I've learned a bunch from that. And, what works and what doesn't, and what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of doing. So
this is your full-time.
It is. This is my full-time. It's been kind of that way on and off for a bunch of years. Although this past year has been like more full-time kindergarten kitchen teacher than luthier.
Sure.
Yeah, that was.
What was the point where you decided, yeah, this is full-time? Like, was there some magical thing that happened?
No, I think at the time for me, I was working in a production cabinet shop doing kitchens and bathrooms. And the company I was working for was like, I mean, it was cool. They were really good to me, but it was kind of scary to look around and be like, I don't think I don't really want to come back tomorrow. I think this is like going to be my last week here. I'm going to have to figure out how to make it work with the guitar thing, because I really couldn't stand the thought of like any more like fruitwood stained, kitchen cabinets that needed assembly or anything else to do with that, which was fun. And it was it paid the bills, but I kind of ultimately knew I wanted to pursue this full time. I just didn't know how to make that happen. And I think one of the things everyone used to say is like, oh, the best advertisement's word of mouth. And I would look at people like, oh, yeah, we live in the woods in Connecticut. Like, what does that mean? Like, word of mouth. Like,
yeah.
And, years later, I kind of look back and be like, oh yeah, that's what that means.
Building cabinets is one thing, a bunch of straight lines.
Yeah.
And no strings and no intonation and no electronics and everything. In the process of building your guitars, it seems as though everybody kind of has one thing that they're like, I was cool till I had to do this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For me, it was definitely finishing. Like, I was like pretty adamant that I had it down. Like, I read some books and I watched some Stu Mac videos. It's like, yeah, I'm on this. Like, I'm going to go spray some lacquer. And my first batch of stuff I sprayed, I was like, I'm going to do some bursts and some crazy, I just had this huge plan. And I think everything went wrong. I think immediately, like, I got an airline contaminated with oil, and everything that you could think of happened all at once. I think I also suffered the first panic attack I ever had at that point. It was like,
what have I done?
What have I done? I was refinishing a customer's like late 60s SG. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was one of my early jobs. I took on. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. That's not a problem. And that was at the time where like that stuff was okay. Like, you could refinish. You guys were talking about earlier. It's like refinishing a full SG, and now we look at it and be like, no, you don't want to do that. It's like, it's just going to kill the value. But this one was really, really bad. It was like one of those stripped, so it looked like, I don't know, like plain walnut or something. It was just terrible. But
that's Jared's favorite.
Those seem to find their way to my shop a lot, but this one went back to cherry red, and it came out fine. But I was getting like this pinhole effect in the finish in the top coats, and it wasn't showing up until I wet sanded it, and I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't figure it out. And it was.
Is that the same thing as orange peel?
Well, the orange peel is actually just the finish. Like, if you're pushing air with the lacquer out, you're actually sort of rippling the finish. And that happens. That always happens. So you can flow it out. You learn to flow it out a lot better as you go. This was actually a result of me holding the gun too close to the guitar. But I didn't learn that for like another 3 years. So for like 3 good years, I just went like, it was hit or miss. Like, every few I would get this, it would show up in the darker colors, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And finally, I don't know if it was someone saw me from a distance and they're like, hey, you know what? You're way too close. Or I put something together, because again, I don't think we really had as much, YouTube, and we didn't have YouTube then. This is it's going back. Like, I'm dating myself like I'm some old dude. I'm like, I'm not that. But we didn't really have.
We're all pre-YouTube, so that's cool. No worries.
Good. We're all on the same page with. We learned from books. Yeah. But I just learned from, like I said, it was like kind of a lot of just learning from mistakes. And as I got a little better at it, I would like, definitely not going to do that again. And there was that whole, I might do that again if I think it worked. And that one I'm definitely not going to do again. And that kind of stuff just sort of happened in the early days.
So you've been doing this several years, and one of the things that we just truly get happy about is when we find out that somebody has decided to go off and try this on their own, whether it's building pedals or building guitars or building amps or whatever. And we've gotten a lot of email saying, well, we finally did it, and I'm deciding I'm going to try this. And honestly, I can't even explain how awesome that makes us feel when we find that out. It was never our goal, but it's like, wow, there's been several that have. Knowing that somebody out there maybe just has been itching to get out there and go like, I'm going to build one myself. I want to try this. Can you just give maybe a word of advice?
Oh yeah. I mean, let me think that through. Well, if they have already tried spraying a guitar and they're getting that pinhole thing, now they know that they're holding the gun too close to the finish.
There
That's
you go.
No, I would say, really just, it's hard to sum it up. Like, just go for it and do it. I mean, you're going to make mistakes, but I mean, that's just natural, and really put the effort in. I think that's a big thing, is like people get to a point where they maybe get a little bit like, whether they back down, they're nervous that it's like not going to work out for them or whatever. Just, push through it and just keep going, and really, really work hard to try to like really get good at what you're doing, perfect that part of it. And a lot of times we come out at the end and find that it might not be for you to do the whole thing, but there might be some part of that process that you're really good at that can turn into something too. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's something to consider. And we've talked about this before, where I think more and more people are being open to saying, I can still create something and I don't have to be the best at every aspect of that something. And I can ask someone who's better at that something to do that something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very freeing if you've got a great idea and you say, I know what this thing looks like. I've seen it in my head. When I go to sleep at night, I dream about this thing. And I think I could do it except for this one part. I don't know that I could create a neck. Well, then don't. But build the rest of it and get a neck, or call somebody up who's been on the show and say, hey, can I get a neck from you or something?
And I think that's a big hurdle when you're looking at building an instrument, building a guitar. That was for me. That was like a thing that when I was really young, like high school, I was not so confident in the ability to make a neck. And I don't know why. I look back on it, it's like, so who cares? So what? The neck sucked. Big deal. It's like maybe it didn't intonate or something when we were done. But I had that hurdle I couldn't get over until I got out and started to work in another shop. And then I was, my mind was put at ease. It's like, it's maple. You glue a fingerboard on there, and if you put the slots for the frets in the right place, it'll tune to pitch, and put the bridge where it's supposed to go. You're fine. It's just wood. And I kind of look back at it. It's kind of funny. It's like, it was just a piece of wood. But
what do you think most people starting out freak out the most about?
Probably the neck, because there's still I get a lot of guys that are like, they don't trust themselves to adjust their truss rods or anything, and that's fine, because that's a scary proposition on an expensive instrument. But for me, I look at it, it's like, well, it's not a big deal as long as you don't go crazy and break something. But probably the neck or wiring. I know a lot of guys are just like, and I'm sure you guys have all seen it. It's like you open up someone's guitar and it's like, what did they wire it with? It's like, with a cigarette lighter. That's how it works. Yeah.
Big solder gloves.
Yeah. It's like you look at that and you're like, oh, that guy's got one of those big soldering guns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's got really confident with that thing. No. That's not the right tool for the job.
Are you going to be planning on making any new models in the future, or are you sticking with your tried and true here?
Yeah. I've actually been toying with the idea of bringing in a 24 and 3/4 scale. Actually, like it's really, I think I was looking at doing like a 24 and 5/8, which is the original, like the older Gibson stuff. I think. I mean, I have a couple that I think are in that realm of somewhere between 25 and 24 and 5/8 and 24 and 3/4. We call it the Gibson scale, I guess. But yeah, that's something I'm really excited to introduce. And whether it goes on to like the Satellite or a Zenith, or maybe something along the lines of like a Les Paul Jr. kind of vibe, that might happen in the next few months. So.
Are you planning on any tremolo systems?
Yeah, that's another thing. I have a couple of things on the shelf right now that I'm playing with. That's I haven't gotten to the point where I'm ready to do like a jazz master, like quite yet. But I definitely have some ideas for them. But I have a couple orders right now for like Strat trems.
Cool.
So yeah.
I mean, do you have a brand that you like to use, or?
No, I haven't really done enough with trem stuff over the years. I've used in the past like Godot for some of the 2-point trems, which I really like the knife edge stuff. Yeah. These are probably going to get like a Kluson. And I haven't decided if I want to try the 2-post or stick with the traditional Strat style. I haven't drilled anything, so it hasn't been firmed up. But I like the vintage stuff, but I also like the adjustability of having the height of the 2-post. So that's kind of
I think there's some purists that have to have that 6 screws vintage style. But personally, I think that the 2-post is a more adjustable and user friendly system than the more vintage style.
Yeah. I have no problem. I mean, I want to bring that whole vibe of, it's not a straight vintage instrument. It has that appeal, and that's the styling behind it. But I want the thing to function. So ultimately, I want the best functioning hardware. So probably see a 2-post. If I, when I do that model, it'll most likely be something like either a Godot. I think Kluson's making one now. I have to look at WD because I've been buying, like I said, a lot of stuff from them. They've been really good throughout this whole last year about keeping as much as they can in stock. I don't know about you guys, but I found like a lot of the vendors coming into this, like March, April of last year, just sort of fell off the map. And then they came back on, and it's been large amounts of back order stuff. Yeah. For months.
Yeah, as long as you don't need a Bigsby B5, that was my dilemma. Oh my God, they're still out. Unless you need a gold one, there's plenty of those.
The gold ones are always available for some reason. I've again toyed with even doing something in the realm of like a Bigsby with the cut telly bridge would be kind of cool just to have, but I have to limit the amount of things that I want to build and put on the shelf.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great getting to know you and learning about your guitar story here. It's always inspiring to hear where somebody started, where somebody fell into difficulty and made it out of it. And I hope that maybe there's somebody who's listening right now. You know who you are if you're listening and you're like, I just need to get pushed over the edge.
Do it.
No, there's your nudge. Go do it, man.
Yeah,
do it.
All right. We're going to find out what's going on with our buddy Jared, probably knee-deep into a pie right now. A pie.
Pie?
This point of the show, I got to grab this thing out of my little pocket called Would You Rather?
Whoa.
Wow.
This week's Would You Rather is from our old buddy Double B, Bruce Bacon. Yep, this one's a tidbit different, and change is okay sometimes, right? You're a guitarist in a local Pink Floyd tribute band. You already own your dream amp, but its Achilles heel is the effects loop, which degrades your tone about 20%. So would you rather the trifecta version? A, stick with your dream amp, and continue to use the tone sucking effects loop knowing no one in the audience will know the difference. B. Stick with your dream amp, bypass the effects loop, and run your modulation pedals through the front of the amp and deal with the limitations. Or C. Sell your dream amp and buy 2 lesser quality amps for a wet dry rig, which makes your modulation effects sound glorious, but your core tone is slightly above average, and carrying and setup are more difficult. 3 choices. I don't know what to do with myself.
So what you're saying is you can use the amp that you love and you love the tone out of, but you have to use the effects loop, which you feel is sucking tone.
Yep.
You can front load the amp with it going into the bypassing the effects loop,
Which is limiting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There are some amps that don't like that. And then the third option is to sell the amp that you love and then buy 2 amps that give you the more flexibility so that you can have dry and wet signal in each
That's
amp.
right.
Okay.
And this is for a local Pink Floyd tribute band that you happen to be doing an
There's
awesome job.
There's a lot of modulation, a lot of delay, a lot of stereo, a lot of knickknacks and paddywhacks.
This is a curious case, and it's a real case that I'm sure a lot of people have to deal with. Anybody that's, I mean, this is kind of like a big Marshall issue, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Bolonsky.
Well, in my local Pink Floyd cover band called Call Me Sid, SYD.
Is that the challenge? We got to come up with local Pink Floyd.
Yes,
cover
you have to
band
come.
names?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
That's part A of the challenge. Come up
Okay.
with the local. So Call Me Sid is mine. I think. I mean, I would probably opt for the 2 amp setup if I could know what the 2 amps are. You know, I wouldn't want to go and have to buy like 2 pig nose amps or something like that. But if they were decent amps and I wanted to get the full stereo panning effect, nothing comes better or closer to that, or sounds better in my book, than having 2 amps. So assuming that they are of decent quality, Call Me Sid is going for sell the amp that I have and buy 2 amps so that I can take full advantage of stereo and a wet dry kind of setup.
Amen.
okay. Let's see. Let's go to Jared.
Yeah, my local Pink Floyd tribute band called Just a Little Pinprick. I will definitely go with C. I mean, Tony pretty much took all the reasoning and good explanation. I would just try to say the same that Tony says, but would just screw everything up. So, right. So yeah, I definitely, with all those effects, I definitely want my guitar to be totally stereo, delay, all the good stuff that you hear on the Floyd records, of course.
Yeah.
So definitely, I would go with the 2 less. To be honest with you, nobody in the crowd. I mean, you might have 1 or 2 gear snobs in the crowd out
Todd.
of the 3 people that are there.
What?
So
Todd.
So I don't really care what people think of my gear that are out in the crowd. They just want to hear the songs that they know and have a good time.
And want it to sound like the record.
Pretty much. Or else they're out of there.
So, and I like the name of your band because it ties in with the whole vaccination thing.
Yes.
Nice.
All right. Let's see here. John, you're up, man. Pressure's on.
Pressure is on. I know. For my 4 pedals, I play through a champ. Yeah. I would have to go with the same. I would say 2 amps. If you could have your choice, something of, like you said, something decent quality, nothing like a couple of solid state pawn shop prizes that are just bottom of the barrel stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a tough one. It's a tough one because you're going to get the guy in the crowd that wants to hear Freebird, and you better be ready to deliver. If you're at the end of the night.
And the name of your Pink Floyd cover band?
Oh man, I would. That's a tough one. I'm sketching things and I'm looking at it, and I don't know if I want to go there. No, I have nothing good.
We'll give you.
We let him slide. We'll let him slide since
we'll let him slide. He's the guest.
I appreciate it. Oh yeah.
All right.
Todd?
Well, I'm definitely going 2 amps for sure.
Okay.
That's because I've never been really good with the loop, the amp loop, the effects loop in the amp. And 2, I love the idea of 2 amps. I like the idea of having just a multiplied sound and not just more of one, but that variance. I think that would be. I do that with my own rig to a degree. So
I did use 2 amps at shows just to get a true stereo effect sound, and it worked. I'm proud of that.
Massive orange amps.
Yes, and I'm proud of it. And it worked.
Jared buys everything in 2s.
Yeah, it's true.
And everybody left there saying,
even shoes.
Probably nothing about my setup, right? But I don't care.
And Todd,
yes.
What is the name of your Pink Floyd cover band?
My Pink Floyd cover band is "Shine On You, Crazy Diamond Dallas Page."
Oh,
We're
I like it.
going to dress up like wrestlers while we
Nice.
play Pink Floyd songs.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So kind of a Los Straight Jackets meets Pink Floyd.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So there you
God.
go.
I love it. I just have this picture in my head right now, and it's disgusting, but
Indeed. Well, you can thank me, Tony, and then you can thank all of our awesome supporters. Why don't you hit us up with that?
Thank you, Todd.
You're welcome.
At this point of the show, there's a special group of people that we love to thank for their support. These are our executive producers. Now, you may be wondering there, what in God's name is an executive producer? And even more importantly, how do I become one? Because I want to be in that gang. Well, it's very simple, folks. Just head over to patreon.com/theguitarknobs. And you'll find a couple of different levels in which you can participate, become a sponsor, a patron, if you will, of this very podcast. Without folks like you, we just couldn't make this happen. And we want to keep making it happen forever. One of the top levels is their executive producer level. You get a great bevy of thank you gifts, things like T-shirts and barefoot buttons and picks and stickers and keychains, all the good stuff. But you get one thing more. And Jared, what is that?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers, Mr. Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, John Daly, Chris Kearney, Darren Gregory, Doug Christ, Michael Van Zant, Ken Sayers, Brian Robison, Michael Senchuk, Stefan Lamb, Johnny Knowles, Anthony Lathrop, John Anglin, Tyler Bray, Brad Partridge, Chris Heidel, John Esterly, Doug Gann, Justin Jones, Brett Alexander, James White, Matt Hart, Liam Martin, James Pennington, Richard Kendall, Tig Harmon, John Williams, John Jackson, Jason Roush, David Arando, Douglas King, Gary Cooper, Ron Saxby, and Elad Mizrahi.
Yeah, I think you nailed it that time.
Yeah. You like that little at the end?
Mizrahi.
But wait.
Huh?
There's the keepers of the penthouse suite, just barely a floor above from our executive producers. These are our grand poobahs. They get a special fez to wear whilst listening to the podcast.
There's gold toilets in that floor.
That's right.
I've never been up there, so I couldn't say for certain, but I'll take your word for it, Todd. So special thanks to these grand poobahs: Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, David Kaminga, Cody Lane, Cody Foster, Sean S. Yes. Tommy Manasco, Mark Garton, Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Tim Nowak, and Tyler Ryans. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Exactamon. And I'm just going to throw a little teaser out there. We've got a pretty big announcement for our patrons and supporters, specifically the Poobahs. But then there's going to be a trickle down effect. But more to come on that later. Okay.
Is your Pink Floyd cover band going to play a special show for them?
I'm working out, man. I'm getting ready for it. So, John, where can people find your guitars? Where can people buy your guitars?
People can buy my guitars. They can go direct to my website or check it out. I usually list stuff on Instagram that will take you to like Reverb. And that's probably the place to go. Check the Reverb page often and look for updated stuff I'll put up on there as it becomes available.
Is that beautiful? Beautiful. It's a beautiful guitar. Is that is that still for sale? Can someone buy that?
Someone could buy that very guitar. Yes, they could.
Jeez Louise. Somebody better go get that thing toot sweet.
Cool.
Tony Baloney, where can people get your stuff?
If you need a special pick guard or you're making some changes, whatever, head over to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the things that I have available for online purchase. But by and large, most of what I do is custom. So shoot me an email. Let me know what you need. I will take very good care of you and give you a pick guard you're going to love.
That's right.
Get some of that tiger eye burl. What?
Tiger eye shell.
I was just going to say that.
I do. I stock that.
Cool.
Jared, how about yourself?
Well, if you're in need of new pickups that look old to match your old guitar, whatever, or you have pickups that need repaired, restored, super old pickups that are so old that you don't even know how old they are. They're just crusty and stuff. I fix those too. BrandonWildPickups.com. I'm also on Instagram, Brandon Wild Pickups. Any questions or concerns, get a hold of me any which way.
And new pickups, for Pete's sakes. You make awesome new pickups.
Oh yeah, I do.
And hum canceling P90s and hum canceling Jazz Masters.
Yeah, the Jazz Masters, the noiseless Jazz Masters, they do the trick. They give the guitar a little more oomph. They're a little more usable than the traditional, and yet they still hold some of the nice bell tones of the originals as well, but just more usable. So check them out.
Cool.
And they don't have any of this.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
What
Tony.
about you, Todd?
Well, you can shoot me an email, Todd@theguitarknobs.com. You can also DM me on Instagram @guitarknobs. I will share your message with the fellas. We will answer questions. We would love to get your would you rathers. And other than that, I just want to give a big fat thanks to John Maghini for, number one, making some awesome guitars, and two, joining us on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a lot of fun.
You bet, man. Cool. All right, everybody, have a great guitar weekend. Subscribe.
Maghini.
Nice.
How about some of these?
Okay, let me do it.
Go to the restroom, grab a drink, let the dog out, do whatever. Like, no problem. Jared usually has to do all three of those.
Yep.
Well, I might. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah. I'm going to edit that, you bozo.
What's your favorite pie?
Oh, my favorite pie. That's tough. I'm going to have to go with lemon meringue.
Lemon
which is
meringue.
weird.
That's very good, especially in a pie.
I don't have any idea.
I made of cheese.
Occasionally
and once in a while.
Right.
Look it up, Tony.
Look it up in the book. Bacon. Good morning, Todd.
Hey, man.
Good. I can barely hear you. Are you away from the mic?
Oh, what about now?
Yes, Jared. That's perfect. Jared, I think you should pummel him next time you see him.
Oh, he's got a few swift kicks in the nuts ready for him.
Yeah. That's my little buddy. I like him a lot. He's good. Good man. I even said so publicly on the podcast. Tony Bolonsky. Jared.
I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.